Awesome. Well, welcome everyone to the Daily Restaurant Podcast Show. I've got this wicked guest in the studio, which is cool. I brought treats, but you brought treats too. We're gonna have treats together, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, we have an amazing guest. Now I'm gonna say your name right. Say it again for me.
Davide.
Davide. There you go, Davide. And your last name, say it again for me as well.
Di Giorgio.
Di Giorgio. That's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful name. Director of Learning Development for the one and only Crumbl Cookies. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, seriously, like this is amazing. I love when people come into our studios because we usually do everything virtually. And when we get to people come in and to hang with us, it's just a treat.
Well, when you put it out as an option, I'm like, yeah, I'll do it live. It's just way better. Better audio, better sound, better experience, right?
It's a better experience, right? Plus, we're going to have a dive into those cookies
Absolutely.
as well. Right. So how long you been with Crumbl Cookies?
Since November of 2021. November 2021.
2021.
Yeah.
So not that long.
Not that long.
Right. How's the journey been so far?
Amazing.
Yeah.
So see, my journey at Crumbl was an interesting one because, pandemic changed the life for everybody. So when the opportunity at Crumbl came up, completely random story for another time. But I kind of knew, okay, I'm taking an entry-level job with a company, but it's like the cookie company in the US. So I'm going to do that. I also thought to myself, the people who really understand the operation from the ground level, because I started as a field trainer. So I would travel out to locations and support franchise owners in opening their locations. So I started as a field trainer, and then I just sort of worked my way up, and here I am now in Canada, back to Canada.
Wow. And so Crumbl Cookie, I like learning about how fast it's grown is incredible. Right. I always find that that success isn't just really handed to you. So there had to be some really smart people behind the brand. Right. So how long has it been around? Since 2017?
2017, right? September of 2017 is where it started in Logan, Utah.
Okay. And then how many stores?
There's over 800.
800?
Today. Yes. And so as of next month, we're going to be in all 50 states. In a little bit after that in Puerto Rico. And of course, now we have 2 locations in Canada and several more on the way. And we might have our sight set on some international locations. So just keep your eyes out for that.
Wow, that's just remarkable. Like it's remarkable in the growth. You guys must be getting awards for that growth. There must be some awards somewhere.
Yeah, the Crumbl's doing really well. They're doing pretty good. They have definitely been recognized in the industry for a variety of different things.
So what's the vision? What's causing this? What's that vision look like?
So at Crumbl, we have a mission statement, a purpose statement, a vision statement. The mission of Crumbl, which really sums all of them up together, is to bringing friends and family together over a box of the best cookies in the world. Period. That's just what we want to do. Is the cookies are a vehicle to bring people together and to experience meaningful moments together. And that's really how it started. Well, if we go right back to the beginning, how it started was 2 cousins, Jason and Sawyer, decided they wanted to work together. They wanted to start a business together. And they thought, well, let's start a cookie company. Now, for your entertainment, neither of them have ever baked before. So that sounds like a great idea, right? Business 101.
Brilliant.
Beyond that, they also rented out a space and purchased equipment before they had a product. Definitely not recommended, but it's worked out really, really well for them. And there's a lot of funny stories. Sawyer often goes on live. He'll do TikTok lives or Instagram and stuff like that. And he'll tell the stories, little bits and pieces of the stories of how it all started. But originally it was just 2 cousins who wanted to work together and do something cool in their community in Logan, Utah. Sawyer was finishing up college at the time. Jason was out in the world of work. He was in software world. He's a tech guy. And the 2 coming together was really sort of this magical combination because Sawyer was sort of the lover of food, design, creativity, and Jason was all about data and the tech side of it. So they come together, they put together this idea, and really what has propelled the company to where it's at today with over 800 locations now in 2 countries is data. They use data to make all of their decisions. So when you look into that further, of course, that means that we're using our customers to make our decisions because they drive the data, what they love, what they're reviewing online, what they say about our cookies. We use that information and how popular cookie flavors are to inform the next steps for the company. So yeah, it's been an interesting ride. That's for sure for the last 5.5 years.
That's really cool. It's crazy to say 5.5 years, that many locations. So there's got to be also a secret formula to the recipes of why they make these cookies so special. What is that?
So
what can you share?
I can't tell you the secret, but I can tell you that the basic secret is, again, it goes back to Jason's tech side of things and data. So it's testing, testing, testing. So let's go back right to the beginning. How did they come up with the original milk chocolate chip cookie, which is one of the cookies that was on the menu pretty much almost every single week for the last 5.5 years until recently, where we're starting to rotate between milk chocolate chip and semi-sweet chocolate chip. Well, how they came up with that cookie, remember, these are two guys who did not bake. So, and there's some funny stories about that, again, story for another time, but they finally come up with a recipe that kind of worked. And so Jason, in his wisdom, said, hey, we've got to A/B test this. So they took the cookie that worked, they changed one ingredient or one process. So they have an A and a B cookie. They go out to grocery stores and gas stations and they ask passersby, hey, will you try these two cookies? Tell us which one you love. So one cookie wins. They take that cookie, they change one thing about that cookie. They go back out now with the new A and B cookies. And they did that over multiple times until they came up with the cookie that everybody was like, this is the one. This is so good. And so here we are 5.5 years later, still to this day, in most weeks, milk chocolate chip is the most popular flavor on the menu. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, I mean, so, 5.5 years later now, of course, it's just on a bigger scale, the testing. So we test at headquarters. There's a whole research and development team. Then there's testing locations across the US, and eventually we'll have them in Canada as well, where a cookie is developed, multiple iterations of that cookie first at headquarters. Then the cookie goes to a testing location, and at those testing locations, the customers rate and review the cookies. And there's very strict guidelines and criteria. If it passes the criteria, that cookie runs. Then, if that cookie runs, and this has happened a couple of times, there's a couple of graveyard cookies. And I can tell one because Sawyer always shares about it. For example, everything but the cookie was basically an everything bagel cookie.
No way.
And it was tested and it went through multiple iterations and it passed. But then once it ran, it was so not popular that it's not coming back. Except Sawyer always says that unless you come to headquarters and I'll make it for you myself. Because I thought, Sawyer, it was a pretty good cookie. I did too, personally. It was a pretty good cookie. But, people ask for things. They want to try savory cookies. And then when it actually comes to be, but like I said, we're listening to our customers. We pay attention to the data. And if they say no, we move on. We try something different.
Wow. And the menu rotates every week. Is that right?
Yes, it does. And so originally the idea was just to sell chocolate chip cookies, but the customers wanted more. They came up with a specialty flavor. The first one, a piece of Crumbl history, is Midnight Mint, which was sold after midnight because it was in a college town. Mm-hmm. And so the college kids loved to go out and get their cookies late at night. And so then customers kept asking for more and more flavors. And eventually they landed on this idea of a weekly rotating menu after a few different iterations. And so now every single week, you get a different lineup of 6 cookies. And yeah, so you can imagine, since where we are at Cisco here, what challenges that brings to the operation, but we've been able to figure it out so that it makes sense for the operators of each location and for the business itself. And this really is the other magic, sort of the secret sauce, is this weekly rotating menu keeps people coming back.
Yeah,
it's always different. It's always new.
The FOMO. You're creating FOMO, right?
Yeah, and there's over 200 gourmet flavors. So you just never know what you're going to get.
So now you guys, by doing all that, like as I work in the social media world a lot, you create social media content that's probably through the roof every week. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so the social media is really interesting because it follows sort of this hype cycle marketing where every week there's something new. Now, so the story of how this all happened is very interesting. And it was actually during the pandemic that it all happened. So by 2020, 3 years into the business, 2.5 years into the business, Crumbl had some good relationships with some influencers, social influencers, who started to share the content of Crumbl and started talking about Crumbl online. We also started to see a rise in user-generated content at that time. So, but there wasn't a ton of traction yet.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until in May of 2020 that the social media team decided to try something different. And what they did instead is they wanted to do something a little bit more organic. And they created the first ever Crumbl flavor video on TikTok. And these are
Okay.
these famous videos. Now they've become famous where you see them every week, that they're just highly visual, they're mouth-watering, highly energetic videos that really feature the cookies as if they're like, you know, $1 million product. Well, that video, the first one, got 1 million views. And then what started happening is people started to reshare those
Oh, okay,
videos.
okay.
So one of the videos then in the next several weeks got recognition from an influencer, and they started to reshare it. And this influencer had millions of followers on TikTok. And so all of a sudden, we started getting all this traction. So by May of 2020, we had 75,000 followers on TikTok. There was a goal to hit 250,000 by the end of Q2. They did that in 9 days. And by the end of the month of May 2020, they had 1 million followers on TikTok.
Wow.
So that whole combination of like, you know, the redesign of how they were going to do the social media, this weekly flavor sort of introduction video, it was just this perfect storm to create this mass following on social media. And it's worked ever since. People go crazy for that weekly drop every single week. So in Canada, happens at 5 p.m. Mountain every Sunday.
Oh,
5
I've
p.m.
heard
Mountain.
about this. I've heard about this.
Yep. So on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and on our Crumbl app. We have our own Crumbl app, of course, as a tech-driven bakery.
Yeah.
At 5 p.m., people are waiting to load up their app or go check their TikTok or whatever it is to see what the new flavors of the week are. And that's how you find out.
And that's your advertising channel then?
Pretty much. Yeah,
Brilliant.
absolutely. And then people start to reshare.
Reshare it.
So what happened from there is people go sit in their car and they go to the store on Monday, they sit in their car, they try the cookies. And this has become very famous on TikTok especially. And that's what they do. You know, I tried this cookie, I give that a 7 out of 10. I tried this cookie, I give that a 10 out of 10.
No way.
Right. And that's what's really helped sort of really share on such a wide scale to a huge audience. The
Amazing.
user-generated content has really gone crazy.
And I'm expecting. Well, I probably guess that you're going to continue trying to get that user-generated content.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You guys are so creative. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, now, the team is incredible. The social media team is huge and amazing. And when you watch the videos, you really know, you're like, okay, this isn't your grandma's cookie company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is like a serious deal when you watch how they're sort of like, these cookies are suspended in midair and being broken open and splashed with ingredients. It's really cool how they've sort of made it a very visually appealing thing so that the cookies look as good as they taste.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. I think a lot of people could learn from that, right? That whole story, because it's storytelling in a way, right?
Absolutely.
It's total storytelling. So first of all, you guys really kind of exploded through COVID, right? You guys exploded through COVID, which I always say that there's so many amazing stories that came out of that unfortunate time for our industry. And this is, I think, one of them that you guys just continued to grow through that. What is some of those things that you guys did through that to really achieve the growth that you did?
Yeah, so we were very lucky. Crumbl grew during the pandemic where some companies didn't. And I know what was really interesting at that point was we had at the beginning of COVID that social media boom in May of 2010. So within that first quarter of COVID, that already. Social media boom really lended to a lot of it. But then it also goes back to paying attention to the data. And so what we knew, so by that point in 2018, we had launched our mobile app and it's already in its several hundredth iteration. I think it's on version 27, but to get to version 27, it's like several hundred iterations to get there, right? So we had the mobile app already and we started to lean into the fact that, well, Crumbl is a comfort food and you can't get together with your friends, but you can get your Crumbl cookies if we deliver them to you or if we did curbside delivery. And so we started to introduce those services, which went very well. And then in September of 2020, we launched our loyalty program, Crumbl Cash, Crumbl Crumbs. So every $1 you spend, you get a point. When you get to 100 points, you get $10 in free cookies. We want to give you more cookies. And so that was in September of 2018. In November of September of 2020. In November of 2020, sort of on the cusp of watching, okay, are we going to start to release all of the restrictions that were being put on people getting together? We launched Crumbl Catering, so that we were ready when people were going to get back together, that they could share cookies in community. And then just before the holidays in 2020, what they did is they released digital gift carding. So with the digital gift cards right in your app, you can purchase a digital gift card. You can record a video message and send it to someone via text, and they can enjoy Crumbl cookies that way too.
Wow.
So there was a whole series of things that they did during the pandemic to really make sure that the business stayed robust for everyone and for all the franchise partners too.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So I have a question. Can we have a cookie?
Yes.
Let's share a cookie? And
Yeah,
we get into
absolutely.
this. So what's your favorite?
That blueberry crumb
You're gonna
cake,
go
I'm
for that
just
one?
saying, is like,
Going in for it?
oh my goodness.
So get in for it. So what's the
just
best thing to have
cookies.
with a cookie?
Milk? I mean, come on now.
You guys don't have any like secret drink that goes along with it?
Milk.
Just milk. Milk. All right, I'm gonna have a little bit of the
Cookies and
blueberry
milk.
as well.
Yeah, it's so good. It's just,
So
yeah.
all the ingredients must contribute to the success of this as well, right? Like you guys
Yeah.
are not.
And the unique thing about Crumbl too is that we do literally make everything from scratch
So this is all made from scratch.
in real time in the store. So we crack the eggs in the store. Oh yes.
No
Like what
way.
people, it's funny because when you walk into a Crumbl, there's 2 large Hobart mixers, 60-quart mixers, right? I know. Wait, I have to have a bite.
You're gonna
too,
have to have a bite too. Share this bite moment with me.
right? And that lemon glaze.
I
oh
know.
My God, it's so good, right?
Oh, dude.
Mm-hmm. Got real blueberries in it. So good. But yeah, so we have the mixers right up front. And it's funny because the industry, it's just not normal for us to see everything. It's an open concept bakery. So even people don't think, with all the other businesses out there that are sort of half baking things or whatever the case is, I'm not saying it's just become normal. It's become an industry standard. It's not normal to crack your eggs. It's not normal to mix everything literally from whole ingredients from scratch. And we bake everything in real time. Everything is served warm. So, it's quite the operation. And again, then you put that whole rotating menu on top of it. Every week there's, new challenges. Yeah, it works out. It works out really, really well.
Wow. This is so good.
Right?
What's that? It's a combination.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought that goes behind this is crazy. So where's the ideas come from?
So a lot of the ideas.
Do you have a master baker?
Well, Sawyer, we'll call Sawyer our master baker, although he would never admit to that. But Sawyer is the originator of the ideas. Mm-hmm. And then there's a whole team. There's a whole research and development team, a menu team, which is absolutely incredible. And you're right, the thought that goes into it. So if you look at those cookies in the box, they look good together. Well, that's thought about.
Serious?
Oh, yeah. How the cookies look together, the flavor profiles, how they complement one another from week to week.
You gotta try one more just with me.
Okay, let's see.
What's this one?
The strawberry ice cream bar.
Yeah, I'm going for that.
Do that one. So that's one of our chilled cookies. So we do warm and chilled cookies. Yeah.
Serious?
Mm-hmm.
You serve them warm?
Mm-hmm. Yep, they come right out of the oven. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting to put the pieces together why you have 800 stores.
And counting.
And counting. I get it. I totally get it now.
Mm-hmm.
There's more to this than just a cookie.
It's really unique. And like I said, Crumbl's a tech-driven bakery. So none of this has happened really by accident. Well, sure, there are happy accidents along the way that happen and whatever, but there's a lot of thought that has gone into it. And because we track the data, all of the data, we could tell you on any given day how many of any flavor has been sold. And so we're paying attention to what people are loving. So good, right? Like the other thing that's interesting to know about the flavors is one of the things that how we develop flavors is that we want the flavors that are nostalgic, flavors that might remind you of something in your childhood, or a flavor that is not normal to have every day, but that you absolutely love, and flavors that complement seasons, flavors that complement holidays, different things like that. So there's so much thought that goes into the cookie lineup, and the cookie lineup is determined a year or more in advance.
Well, wait a minute.
Well, it has to be.
A year and a half in advance?
Yeah, a year or more. Yeah, could be up to a year and a half. And the reason, of course, is supply chain.
Okay.
So the other thing that is really interesting is, sometimes a lot of companies we either approach companies or companies approach us to do partnerships. Oreo, for example, Biscoff, different companies like that. We have branded cookies, co-branded cookies. Well, you can't just go and say, hey, I want to make an Oreo cookie in 2 weeks from now and expect to get any Oreo.
Yeah.
That allotment has been sold a year in advance. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of thoughtful planning that goes into how we pull this off.
So what else do you guys do? What's on the menu? Like when you go to a Crumbl cookie, what's on the menu?
Cookies.
Just cookies. Like, but a lot of places I've seen, it's really interesting that the restaurants and the locations and these like places like yourselves, they do what they do well. Like they just focus on that. And we see a lot of these other restaurants that are out there. You go in there and they're like, well, we'll also serve a steak. We'll also serve this and this.
No.
It's confusing. You guys just stuck to that one lane.
Yeah, there's no cupcakes, there's no cakes, it's just cookies. Now, to be clear, I mean, there are some amazing cookies. There are pie cookies. So we have a pumpkin pie cookie, a key lime pie cookie, a French silk pie cookie. There's all sorts of different iterations. There's no bake cookies. So we really push the envelope of what a cookie is. And so that keeps it interesting for people. So it isn't just, like what you would actually think of a cookie to be. We get really creative. And so for me, my all-time favorite cookie at Crumbl is the key lime pie cookie. And Canadians, if you're listening, I'm just saying it might be coming up in the next, it's a summery kind of flavor. I can't say, but I'm just saying, keep your eye out. It's so, so good. And the other thing that we do too is we constantly reinvent and redesign the flavors. So the first time I ever had key lime pie, it was like an outer body experience. They changed the recipe slightly, modified it to make it a little bit better. It was even better the second time. The third time, another little tweak was made, right? So we're constantly tweaking things to make it even better for our customers.
Wow. I'm blown away. So that's that DNA. Like we see that with some other restaurants that we work with that really focus on, you guys are much more than a cookie place, right? Do you guys talk about that a lot amongst your team and stuff?
Yeah, I think with the mission and the vision, we're very clear that it's a tech-driven bakery.
I love that. Though.
Yeah. And so we really are making informed decisions. It's not just about making cookies. And the other thing is you have to remember, so our purpose, the purpose statement is to inspire the world to create meaningful moments with those who matter most. So it's not just about the cookie. The cookie is the vehicle. And that's why, like I just mentioned, we're looking for flavors that are nostalgic, that make you go, wow, I remember this when I was a kid.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? It's more than just the cookie. It's about that cookie could make someone's day. That cookie could be delivered to someone in the hospital, or it could be used as a promposal, or who knows that cookie. The whole point is that cookie is going to be the vehicle to bring people together. And so we really are clear on, yes, it's just cookies, but what else can that cookie do?
So do you have some examples you want to share with us? Like that you've heard that cookies have done?
So I was just talking to a colleague, and this is a good one. So I've personally witnessed
more blueberry.
Right, go for it. I've personally witnessed a marriage proposal in the lineup at a grand opening.
Serious?
Oh yeah, because it's kind of like Disney World. People who are crazy about Disney, they're also crazy about Crumbl.
Dress up. You should have a dress up day.
We do have costumes actually that we sell. It's a big cookie box and a cookie and a chocolate chip cookie, or is it a pink sugar cookie? Actually, I think it is. Yeah. So this story is really cute. So it was a store that opened not too long ago. I know, so good, right? It just keeps getting better with every bite. That's the thing, right? Now, just remember, each cookie is 4 servings, so they're meant to be shared, right?
Good.
So
just remember that.
just go slow. No judgment, of course. But so the store that opened recently, there was someone standing in line and they were pregnant, and they wanted to have Crumbl before they delivered their baby. Well, they went into labor in line, and of course, they had to go to the hospital, and they delivered that baby. And having heard this, the crew, the owners of that location, sent Crumbl cookies to the hospital for that new family. And to this day, that family still shares pictures of the baby and updates of how they're doing with those owners, it's just really cool. Like I said, Crumbl's been at weddings, we've done charity events, we've been at school events. It's just the perfect thing to have at, because it's not like a full cake, it's just easy. And with our catering, we also have minis. which are a smaller version. They're like 2.5 inches or so. And so then it's like the perfect bite. So you don't have to have the huge one if you're going to do them in bulk. We can do our catering sizes. So it's just worked out really well. Yep.
Wow, that's just, I'm fascinated. I'm always excited when I hear operations like this. And so you guys are like, you don't even consider yourself a restaurant. It's more of a, what would you guys classify as it?
I mean, it's a tech-driven bakery.
It's a tech, that's where you fall into the bakery side. But you're totally different than anyone else. You're what I would say is a cult brand. You're a cult brand, right? You've built into a brand 100%. That you're built into one of the big brands.
People, whether you love it,
have you seen a tattoo yet?
Oh yes. There's a lot of the bakers, a lot of the crew members have, because we have, so our logo is a baker head, and then part of the logo or on the boxes, there's like 4 cookies that are sort of, one is a whole cookie, then they're like one has one bite out of it, 2 bites out of it, 3 bites out of it. People have gotten that tattooed. Yeah, there's all sorts of people getting tattoos with Crumbl stuff.
That is amazing.
It's crazy, but you're right. There is a cult following. And the nice thing about it is, because, sometimes when we talk about cult, there's always a negative connotation, but it's like, but it's just cookies and making people happy. Like when you sit in your car and you have a bite of that cookie and you're like, oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's those brands. Sign me up. It's the brands that will get those tattoos, right? And then we always look at brands and go, well, why am I not successful? What am I doing? And I think the big part that I find that you guys do very well is the connection back to the customer.
Yeah. And it's because of that data. Like, it starts there. We want to know right from day one, where Jason and Story stood it on the street and said, hey, would you try this cookie and this cookie? And what do you think? It continues to this day. And the fact that we continue to develop what our brand promises and what our mission and our vision and our purpose is, and it all comes back to bringing people around together over the cookies. And so it's just bigger than just the cookie itself. We make extraordinary cookies, but we want more beyond the cookie. And I think that's what really drives all of the employees at headquarters and all of our franchise partners and crew members across the country and multiple countries soon, to just do better, to do right by the brand.
Yeah. And I think you guys can really write the model of how to do that. And I love the fact that your owners, the people, the gentleman that started this, they don't come from it. I think that's the success of it.
Right.
Like, it's not like they didn't come with anything of the pre-notion of this is how you do it.
You're so right. Like, they didn't come from the bakery business or the restaurant or the food industry or anything like that. And it's so interesting. And, it's interesting for me because when I took on the job with Crumbl as a field trainer, I was an outside player. I did not have experience in food, not recent experience in food. And so for me, like, I just look at the operation and how to make it better. And I'm sort of thinking about how to optimize. And so the success of me even reaching the position that I have right now in Canada is sort of the same. It's parallel, right? Is that I think it served them not to have any idea about anything and not to have anyone's pre-notions in their ear. They just went for it and said, well, let's do it. And they just kept listening to the customers. When the customer said yes, they went for it. When the customer said no, they said, okay, wait, what should we do instead? And that really continues to build the success today.
What's the next step for Crumbl? Can you share with us what you guys are maybe working on? I know you shared a little about the key lime cookie.
Yeah. I mean, lots of new flavors coming, moving into new regions, even in Canada. So for example, I can share this, that when we did our grand opening in Canada, we had a big VIP event and there were some Canadian flavors there. So for example, there's a Nanaimo bar cookie that was tested. There's different maple cookies that are being tested. There's other flavors being tested sort of that are more Canadian based, right? Moving into Puerto Rico, we're looking at some of those flavors, right? If we move into Europe or in the Southern Hemisphere, we are looking at what is popular, what is nostalgic, what do people love in those areas. So we're always looking to sort of expand that way. Of course, Jason being a lover of all things tech, and he's always looking for what's the next iteration of how we can push the envelope of the tech-driven bakery. Wow. So to add more technology, to make it the experience, the digital experience for customers even more seamless. Recently, we just launched, still in its early phases, but it's working really well, something called the Cookie Journal. So in your Crumbl app, you open up your cookie journal and you rate your cookies, and it keeps track of all the cookies that you've purchased and what you thought of them. But it also shares other people's reviews, so you can see how your favorite cookie is doing against other people's cookies, right? So we're always looking to sort of push the boundaries on that. And one of the things that we're really going to lean into this year, for the rest of this year and moving forward, is that purpose statement of inspiring the world to create meaningful moments with those who who matter most. And how do we use a box of cookies or a single cookie to create more meaningful moments? We also just created a game, Cover Your Cookies, based on their super popular
No
Cover Your
way.
Assets in the US. So we partnered with Grandpa Beck, the maker of that game.
Yeah.
And so we created this game where it's just a fast moving card game where the person who has the most dough at the end wins. And they're beautiful cards. They have cookies, of course, Crumbl Cookies on every card, and there's toppings. And so imagine you're sitting around with your friends, you've got your cookies, you're playing your card game, you're creating meaningful moments with people that you want to spend time with. So
absolutely incredible.
that's sort of the things that we're leaning into.
So one of the questions I have for you, because I can feel the energy from you, and it's amazing, is you must have people that just love working at your locations and for your company, right? Tell us more about that. How do you keep people so excited like you are? Like it's incredible. Like I want to come work with you guys.
Crumbl is just not normal.
Yeah, okay.
In the best way. I mean, we make cookies.
I know, like
you know what I mean? So
it sounds
right
so
there,
simple.
You know,
it's not.
Yeah, so it's not simple, and it's hard, and sometimes it's frustrating, and sometimes you're freaking out because there's just a lot of moving parts to it. But at the end of the day, you're just making cookies. For me, how I keep my energy up is whenever I'm at a location, all I do is I stand and I watch the customers' faces.
Seriously.
And the experience that we create for the customers, so when they purchase their cookies and how they explain the cookies to them, but then when you get the cookies, there's a presentation counter and they bring the cookies over in the closed box and they open the box like they're showing you a diamond ring practically, and they show you the flavors, tell you what flavors they are, ask you if they look good, and they slide you the box, and then they say, see you next week. There's a whole, we create this whole immersive experience. And that's another, you asked about what's next. We're sort of pushing into that too, is creating an even more immersive experience. We want customers to feel like they are seen and heard and like they matter when they come into a Crumbl bakery, because
which has been lost. It's been lost.
It really has been. And we want people to know that these owners are locals to their community, and they are people who really care about doing something good in their community and for the huge crew that they have. Each store could have anywhere from 30 to 120 crew members, depending on how busy that location is.
Every store has how many?
30 to 120. Like in a grand opening, you have to have like 70, 80, 90, 100 crew members.
There must be a demand to work at your place.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
When they turn on the I'm hiring button at a Crumbl location, it's just like, you better be ready for it because your email box is going to be full.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, that speaks to everything that you guys do. It really is. So first of all, I just want to thank you so much. First of all, bring the cookies, because
absolutely,
I'm going to continue. As you told me, it's only 4 servings.
But so, no judgment.
No judgment. Just not. We don't talk about it. We don't bring that up on the show. But I just want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with me. You guys are incredible. Like seriously, I've met thousands of restaurants over my career. I've been 33 years in the industry, and I've only heard this a couple times in my lifetime. And you guys are incredible. So I just want to thank you so much for coming in, spending today with me, having a cookie with me, and sharing what you guys do to make, like, you're dominating the world. So thank you so much.
That's the goal. Thank you so much, Jay.
No, thank you so much. And hopefully we can maybe come and visit a location. We'll do some shows there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, and have a great day. Cheers.